Of the dozens of lease addendums that the AR has to offer, probably the most common is the rent adjustment addendum. It's pretty straightforward and easy to use, and it offers three ways for the rent to be adjusted. First, there's the COLA method, or the cost of living adjustment. That's also known as the CPI adjustment. Now, there's blanks for inserting the months that you would like the adjustment to occur, and those months will also serve as the index for calculating those increases or adjustments. There's also check boxes so you can select which index you'd like to use. There's the CPIU and there's the CPIW. The CPIU covers retail prices throughout the United States and encompasses about 87% of the population. The CPIW is a subset of the CPIU, and it is actually what the Social Security Administration uses for calculating their annual increases. Now, more information can be found on the link appearing on the screen. Keep in mind that the government has about a 2-month delay in their publication of the CPI index. In other words, the CPI for January will not be published until March. So landlords that have filled January in as the date for the increase will have to wait until March to actually bill their tenant, which means they'll be retroactively billing their tenant. Now, one way around that, and something that I do, is that if I want the rent to increase or be adjusted in January, I actually use the November index as my index date. Next is the market rent value adjustment. This is where the landlord and the tenant attempt to agree upon what the fair market value is for the space. Now, if they can't agree, the process calls for an arbitrator to be involved. At that point, the tenant submits their opinion of fair market value and the landlord submits their opinion of fair market value to the arbitrator. The arbitrator then determines actual fair market value, and whoever is closest, well, that's the rent that's going to be used. So, for example, if the tenant believes the fair market value for the space is 40 cents per square foot per month, and the landlord thinks it's $1.10, the determination by the arbitrator is that it's 80 cents per square foot, well, then the landlord's number will be used. It kind of forces both parties to be honest. Finally, there's the fixed rate adjustment. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you want to read the language on the addendum, it's easily understood. It's also important to note you can use one, two, or all three of these methods with any one lease. For example, if you had a 6-year lease, for the first 2 years you could use the COLA method. For the next 2, you could use the fair market rent assessment. And for the final 2 years, you could use the fixed rate adjustment. Don't hesitate to contact the AR with any questions you might have about the use or content of their forms, or to ask about educational seminars that may be available to you. Also, the AIR highly recommends to all parties in a transaction to seek out legal and other professional advice when transacting business using one of their forms. If you liked what you heard today and found it to be helpful, I encourage you to purchase the AIR Forms User's Manual. It's filled with hundreds of similar tips, and ordering information will follow at the end of the video. Thank you.
Perfect.